Joining us now, Republican Congressman Tracy Mann of Kansas. He voted to advance the bill and is calling on his fellow lawmakers to do the same. Representative, thank you for your time. When the bill passed the House, you called it a historic win for America. Do you still feel the same, given the changes the Senate is making and more cuts?
Yeah, well, let's see what the Senate actually ends up passing. They have had provisions that have been released by various committees. It'll actually go to the floor of the Senate, it looks like next week. But let's see what actually passes and what that product looks like before it comes back to the House. But I would say this, the version that the House passed delivers the largest tax cuts for the middle class and working people that America's ever seen. It was a good bill, and let's get it passed as soon as we can.
What reservations do you have, Congressman, about raising the national debt and the deficit concerns that have been brought up throughout this entire process?
Yeah, well, I'm very concerned about it. The version the House passed actually leads to $1.7 trillion in deficit reductions because of all the welfare reforms. And when you really look at how the bill is scored or how it's priced, some big underlying assumptions around what the growth rate might be under the Trump administration. I think that the CBO projections are way low on what the growth rate's actually going to be. But we passed the House, it delivers tax cuts for working class Americans. It secures the border by providing the money to construct the wall. It produces welfare reform, some very great positive things in the bill. And like I said earlier, let's get it passed as soon as we can.
What do you say, though, to critics on the other side of the aisle who argue that the tax cuts and benefits are skewed towards the wealthy and the middle class and low-income families will be more greatly impacted negatively?
I would say that is simply not true. If we do not act and we revert back to old tax policies, then come January 1, we're going to see the working class, the middle class is going to see an average tax hike of $2,200. Some of the signature things in this bill are things like no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security to help our seniors. These are not tax breaks for the wealthy. These are tax breaks. This is a bill for the working class American. And that's the facts of what the bill actually produces and what we passed out of the House.
Another concern is cuts to social safety nets, which you have talked a little bit about, including reductions in Medicaid benefits. What are the protections that would be in place for those types of programs? And talk a bit about work requirements and what you'd like to see in place as it moves forward.
Sure. What we're trying to do is we're trying to preserve these programs for those that need it most. The single mom that has two dependent children, the elderly, the disabled. Let's make sure that we preserve those programs for who it was intended for. But what the bill does that we pass out of the House is it makes sure that there are work requirements for folks that are receiving benefits up to the age of 64 if they're able-bodied and do not have dependents, meaning someone that's in their 50s that does not have any dependents at home that ought to be working needs to return to the workforce in order to qualify for benefits. Just doing that produces over $1 trillion in savings over the next 10 years, and I think that's the right policy for America.
And you think the July 4th deadline still a realistic goal?
I do. We need to keep moving. We need to keep working on it. It's easy to highlight the differences, but there's broad bicameral agreement amongst Republicans to prevent tax hikes, to do welfare reform, to secure the border. There's some outstanding issues we need to get worked through. We'll get those resolved and look forward to seeing the president sign this as soon as we can.
I know you've got some busy days ahead. Thanks for giving us time, Congressman Tracy Mann. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good morning.
You too.